Hey guys, Professor Bill, Comic Book University, and I've had enough people asking me to have a better conversation about this, the House of X, a more in-depth review of it, so I suppose, but understand, just as I put on there, this is an in-depth review. This is a spoiler review, all right? I usually don't like doing this, but this is something that we really got to talk about, the stuff that's in here. So I'm more than happy to, put a little bit more of my own personal insight into this and try and come to a better understanding of what all this great goodness is that's in here. So I've already talked plenty about the ciphers that are in this book. I've talked in length about this. Go and check out the comments on the non-spoiler review, also the standard review, because there's some people who chime in a bit and they actually add to the conversation a lot. They do some translation. They figure out what I wasn't able to figure out because I'm just like, anyway, let's go ahead and check this stuff out, man. We got, right in the beginning, humans of the planet Earth. While you slept, the world changed. And that's by Professor X. This is a very new version of Professor X than what we're used to seeing in here. I know there's a lot of people say he looks creepy. I think a lot of that is because he does look like the Maker. I've seen people saying that also in the comment section, that he looks like the Maker. If you're not familiar with the Maker, this is Reed Richards from the Ultimate Universe, the Earth 1610 universe, where Reed Richards actually wound up becoming evil. And yeah, that was messed up, and he's a serious threat. You've actually seen him in the recent pages of Venom by Donny Cates. So yeah, he's around, and he's probably the biggest threat to ever come out of the Ultimates universe, and love the character. But you see that he's actually creating, it looks like he's creating mutants, or maybe he's doing something else, because he does look pretty young there, doesn't he? I mean, he actually looks like Professor X proper. He doesn't look necessarily like Phantom X did when we actually got to see what he looks like. So I don't know how exactly that worked out. Maybe he wound up reconstituting himself in this little rejuvie bath here or something. I don't exactly know, but I'm sure it has something to do with something. And we've seen people use the Swamp Thing before. Now some of you guys are like, what? Nobody else? I don't think I've seen anybody else. Well, I know I haven't seen anybody else talk about that. Doesn't that look just a little bit? Maybe it's just coincidence. Trick of the light. Maybe it's the glasses that I'm not used to wearing anymore. But that looks something Swamp Thingy-ish to me, doesn't it? So we get all of this crazy stuff, and I love that he just says that to me, my X-Men, and he says it so politely. It's just, I love that. Absolutely love that. So we see all the people who are involved in this book. I'm going to just give it again. Jonathan Hickman, Pepe Larraz, Marte Gracia, VC's Clayton Cowles, and Tom Mueller. They are the writer, artist, color artist, letterer, designer in that order. Larraz and Gracia does the cover, and a whole bunch of people doing the variant covers. So, and also, of course, Stanley, Jack Kirby. You got to give credit to the creators of the X-Men, dude. So you get to see a bunch of people here, and I see Colossus, Storm, Iceman, Armor. Love when people don't forget Armor. Beast is doing a little observing of his own. We see this Kitty Pryde and Lockheed. They're together again. Yay! We see a bunch of people planting and observing and plucking and just checking out these flowers all over the world. This is 5 months ago. Krakoa 4 months ago in Westchester. So the original home of the X-Men. So the X-Mansion's back. It's not in Central Park anymore. 3 months ago in the blue area of the moon. Sick. 2 months ago on Mars, 1 month ago Savage Land, and 3 weeks ago Washington D.C. 2 weeks ago, I guess here at the Jerusalem habitat, and this is, I guess that's the two who are one. I think there's only two of them left. So yeah, in Jerusalem, they've got this facility, and I imagine that this is where Magneto is going to be hanging out, because Magneto is there with two of the Psycho sisters, and they're greeting some ambassadors from the Earth world, the human world, the Homo sapien world, and we move on. I can't really put this down. I got to talk about it and actually show you. We're going to see Miss Marvel over here. It's Marvel Girl. This Marvel Girl, Jean Grey. And at first I was a little bothered. Like, she just had that, I know a lot of people didn't like that suit that she was wearing in X-Men Red. I really did like it. But she's here. She's walking with some mutants that apparently are already alive in the world. And she goes to the main area on Krakoa, and she's hanging out with everybody. What do you call it? A little bit over here? What happens? She sees Professor X. She starts guiding some of the people, and she's just looking around. She's okay. She's like, I'm at peace. I'm happy. Professor X goes and has a psychic conversation with her, and she's happy. She's pleased. She's at peace. I like that. Maybe she's being controlled. I don't know. There are people saying that he looks creepy. Maybe it's just because he looks like the Maker. He's got his little portable Cerebro that he's walking around with. Remember it was a big deal when they made Walkmans? Yeah, I'm just saying. So, back over here though, one of the things that Christopher Hitchens, that's who it is, Hickman, that Jonathan Hickman had said. He was asked, who is the most underrated mutant? And he just kind of goes, oh, Cypher, definitely. It's like he just had that down. And we see Cypher. He's got a little of the techno-organic virus there. A lot of us love Cypher, man. Go and check out 10 things. I think it's 10 things about Cypher explained in a minute. Either way, it's one of the Cypher explained in a minute, Comic Book University. Go look up that on YouTube. You'll find a little something about Cypher. Excuse me. We already know that he's got to be responsible for the code. The new language that they're doing with the X-Men. So I'm digging it. So we find out a little bit more about Krakoa, this whole thing. We got all these different locations here. We've got the House of X, the House of M, Arbor Magna, the Arena, what the frig, Academos Habitat. We got Transit, the Oracle, the Grove, the Cradle, that foreboding, the Reservoir, the Wild Hunt, also foreboding, and Carousel, interesting. And all of them are right here in the middle. Nothing down here, not a whole lot on the edges up there. It's like these are uninhabitable areas or just areas that we don't know what's going on yet. Look closer at the map. What's this line area here? This could be something that's submerged. It could be something that's like right there and they've got something going on. Or it is there or it's hidden somehow or whatever. But nobody knows what's going on there, or at least the map isn't showing. Information hasn't come out yet. I think that a lot of this stuff that's going on is actually stuff that the Orchis project is working on. What's Orchis? Hold your horses there, bud. But this over here, this is what, east by northeast of what would that be? New Zealand. East by northeast of New Zealand. That's actually where the island of Krakoa is. We're finding out more and more what's going on. Krakoa Pacific, it's called. Up here, now here's where we actually start getting more of the Orchis project. We get a couple of names, Karima up in here, Karima, and they've got their own little project going. The forge, the hammer, all this stuff, it exists again. So keep in mind that Hickman is not letting go of the stuff that he did in his Avengers run, in his Fantastic Four run, and operated by a Sentinel head. Watch, we're going to find out this is actually Master Mold at some point. Oh, man. It simply does not bode well. I wonder what percent it's charged at. So we get a whole bunch about the Orchid Protocol, who they're all made up of. And you can see that it's mostly AIM agents. The question that I have, but part of Alpha Flight was tapped. Probably not any of the heroes of Alpha Flight, but Alpha Flight was more than just the actual team itself, as we came to discover later on. It's not just there's Alpha Flight, Beta Flight, Gamma Flight, Omega Flight. No. There's more than that. There's actually the people who were behind the scenes. So Sword, Hammer, they're actually pulling Hammer out of the freaking mothballs. What the hell? But most of them are made up of AIM. 31% is made up of AIM. That is 7% more than the next in charge, which would be SHIELD. SHIELD, which was dismantled by now, by the way. I think that's interesting because I'm wondering, does Hickman acknowledge the new bought out version and highly modified version of AIM that was made by Sunspot? Because if so, if not, Plus, there were parts of AIM that didn't actually go over with the payroll. They stayed their original roots. We find out a lot of what's going on here, the Cro-Magnon effect and everything. And basically, it talks about how 2 years ago, Genosha, which wound up getting rid of a lot of mutants, no mention of House of M here, which is interesting. But, no more mutants, no more giraffes. The mention of Genosha here, that 2 years ago, it actually helped human beings realize that they'd lost a lot of time, or they gained a lot of time that they didn't know that they needed, that they didn't know that they were out of. Humans are right on the verge of extinction because mutants are going forward and to be more than what they already are, to populate larger. We talked about the Old Man Logan world, the wasteland, where it says, oh yeah, mutants. Well, turns out, we're ignoring what Mark Millar said. Turns out that they were just a fluke for a little while. They weren't the future of mankind. No more mutants were born after a while because blah, 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 whatever. Wow, this is completely different from that. At the same time, this could also just be fake news put out by certain branches of the humans because there's a book put out, and that's usually where it happens. You got that conspiracy theory going on. Oh, we're going to be outnumbered pretty soon. It's a far right wing talking point where you say like we're going to be outnumbered. The browning of America and things that are talked about like that. Things that are simply no. Come on now, come on. So this could just be that fake news like. We're in trouble. We need to do something. Basically, trying to organize human beings to join your cause because it's a matter of survival at this point. We're going to be extinct if we don't do something soon about these others. That is the very spirit of the X-Men since forever. We quickly see the new version of the Brotherhood of Mutants, Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, if you're going to go back that far. And they come across the Fantastic Four. Now you see that damage control has a lot to do with what's going on here, which is pretty interesting. And of course they're going to pull out just exactly what I'd said. The hammer, the anvil, I said the forge, sorry. The hammer, the anvil, all these different versions of the Iron Man armor, the bridge, the rescue armors. There's a couple things in here that are brought out as certain levels of security. So damage control is actually a part of that. Interesting. They're bringing out Stark and Richards, which we very quickly go to Reed Richards here. Besides the ambassadorship stuff that Magneto is doing with Esme, I'm just going to skip by all that stuff for a minute. Whatever it is, whatever information gathering, whatever that the new Brotherhood of Evil Mutants was doing, they all escape. All of them, that is, except for Sabretooth. He gets stopped because, oops, the Invisible Woman is there, puts him in a little box, and somebody else comes out of the portal instead, and it's Cyclops, Scott Summers. Now we know that Nathaniel Essex, Mr. Sinister, is able to clone Scott's eyes. We've seen him do that before and use them as grenades, which is freaking awesome. Anyway, maybe he just cloned an eye and gave him a new eye because his eye seems to be okay ever since the Uncanny X-Men run. Maybe it's just really good prosthetics. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, so he's here and he comes walking out all alone like a pure badass. And he's just making light. And he's got this good smile on and like he's showing a lot of teeth and not in a gritting way. He's cool. He's comfortable. He's relaxed. He's just talking to these guys saying, hey, what's going on, Sue? How you doing? Oh my God, I haven't caught up with you. I do. And let's look at body language in here because the art is just as important as the writing as far as storytelling is here. And we're going to really get into that with this confrontation. She starts flirting a little bit because, it's Scott Summers. You'd flirt too. What do you call it? He's got that little wry smile going on over here. You know what I'm saying? Like, and Reed knows that something. He's smart. He knows what's up. But as they're talking, Winston Churchill once said, Couth is the ability to call someone an asshole without actually calling them an asshole. Scott does that in here. He may call him an ass, but he's not calling him a full-fledged asshole. This conversation is brilliant. If you ever want to get a good idea of what charisma is in Dungeons and Dragons and things like that, this whole conversation is nothing but charisma. It's not just what you say, it's how you say it, what's under what you say, your posturing, your position, your stance, everything, your body language. It all comes into play. That's all a part of your charisma. And Scott has that in spades. Literally, Scott has a conversation with these guys as though you and him are playing poker, and he's got all the cards, and you're playing with no cards whatsoever. And he's calling whatever bluff you've got. And you can't call his. So this guy right here, when you look at the positioning, the posturing here, you look, their faces, very similar. You don't have to see Scott's eyes or be able to see through his facial hair to know exactly what's on their minds. And then we get 2 panels of them not saying anything. We're left to the art. We're left to Pepe Larraz to explain it to us, and he does. What do you call it? You can see how fists are clenched. You know something could go down just like that. You get both angles, both major angles of what's going on. And over here, you actually get to see these characters being themselves. We know that Scott is able to reach down with his ring finger and push a little button there and get his optic, his optic visor to open up to let go of his kinetic blast, right? His concussive blasts. So he's got his hands right there so that he could do that. He's ready to go, all by himself. He also knows he's got some backup. And even if he doesn't, they don't know that. And he's using all of that to his advantage. He never acts for a second as though he's not in command. Because he's Scott effing Summers, that's why. But look at these guys. Look at the way they are. The leader over here, right? He fancies himself as like the greatest leader ever. We all know he's not even remotely close to it. Of all the teams out there, he's not the greatest leader that there is. Captain America, Cyclops, leaders. This guy, yeah, no. Not nearly as much as the other guys. What do you call it? But he uses his brain, and he's just standing there. He's thinking. He's ready to fight. He's ready to stretch out with a punch, but he's, what do you call it? He's a thinker. Right here, she's not as much of a thinker, but she does use his mental powers. She doesn't have to tighten up. She can just get loose. These two here, while they have different kinds of physical attacks, they're about physicality, right? We see him ready to fly in or fly up and then start throwing some fireballs or a jet stream or something, or fly around him and do one of those little fire cages, right? Basically something with fire, okay? You're fired. And then we see this guy, he throws punches. That's what he does. He throws punches. Sometimes he throws buses, but they're usually followed up with punches. Anyway, he's ready to punch. That's what he is. And we've seen his most famous position ever. You know, that whenever somebody draws a good thing picture, his hand opened up and turned and running forward and getting ready to just clobber you. And that's what you see he's ready to do. And Scott's just like, you know what? Like, he's just got this big smile. You know what? He knows what's up. He lets just a little bit out. Like I said, his fists are right there. His fingers are right there. Lets just a little bit out and get, like he's giving a little wink. You know what I'm saying? Maybe it's because he is actually missing the other eye. Who knows? Anyway, boom, right up here. Look at his positioning. It's the position of I'm surrendering, but look at it again. He's not really surrendering. It's more like, you know what? You can have this. It's not just what he says, it's how he says it. It's the position of what he's doing, what Pepe Larraz is showing us. He's like, you know what? You can have him. Sabretooth's like, what? Because he already just got finished talking about, hey man, you know what? Bang, 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 whatever. It's not his fault. He's a mutant. There's a reason why he's a criminal. You know what I'm saying? Or why you would see him as a criminal. What exactly did he do after all? But he says, you know what? You can have him. It's cool. Not worth it. A gesture. to show you I'm on your side. We're on the same side. But they're clearly not. This is a very different version of Scott. Actually, not so far off from a version of Scott that we've seen. Cyclops was right, damn it. Cyclops was right. The point is that we get to see a Cyclops who is willing to negotiate, but he knows exactly what he's negotiating. And you see afterwards, that whole smile thing, it is freaking gone. It is gone. You see Sue getting sadder as he's walking away. Not just because her legs are rubbing like a cricket because Scott Summers is close by. No. Because she knows things have changed. Things have drastically changed. Human-mutant relations are really, really tenuous right now. All because of this transaction. It's like, you can have him, but you understand what you think you've gained, you've lost a whole lot more right now. He's the one who's giving up something, not them. They wouldn't even give up ground. Scott looks at this as, this was a favor. You owe me. I'm going to collect. And I'm probably going to wind up collecting out your ass. He walks away, but he says something very important here. I have been told by humans my entire life that I was less than, knowing that I was more than. It's a funny thing. It's a funny thing that the people with the most powers out there, oof. But he also says something really important, the most important thing said in this book, in my opinion. He says, say hello to your son for me. Oh, and let him know he's always a citizen if he wants to be. We're talking about Jerusalem in this book. In Israel, if you are a Jew, if you are Jewish, it doesn't matter what your citizenship is, America, Russia, Australia, wherever. You are a citizen automatically of Israel. Pretty cool thing. Heck, I wish Italy would do the same thing with me, In this particular case, he's mentioning that Franklin Richards, as a mutant, he's welcome to come over any time. He didn't mention anything about Valeria. Interesting. Why do you think that is? Well, I'm going to explain to you exactly, in my opinion, what that is. We now get into the conversation that Hickman had said that was very important to him. What is Omega level? He's not going to let anybody just say, oh, Omega level, Omega level, Omega level. Dude, stop. No mutant is Omega level. None. But powers can be. And anybody's only got one Omega level mutant power at a time. I'm sure eventually somebody will come along and be like, he's got 2 Omega level powers. Somebody's going to do that at some point. It might be Hickman. Doubt it. But anyway, regardless, we go over what exactly it is. Like, what's the difference between Forge's ability and Magneto's ability, and what makes one Omega and one not. I really like that conversation. I don't like Pearson Airport being so close and sending planes my way. But we also get a whole bunch of people here. We talk about, who's Omega and why are they Omega? Why is Jean Grey Omega in telepathy but not in telekinesis? Who is Omega level in telekinesis? And is that Franklin Richards down there? Remember, he's a citizen here. You guys aren't. Tell him to come to where his real family is. Oh, man. That's just good. The rest of what we get here is a really cool little thing where Magneto basically gets to, show off the size of his wee-wee. And I'm cool with it. Here's one of the interesting parts that happened in this book, after this book. We know that House of X and Powers of 10, you got to read issue 1 and then issue 1 and then issue 2 and issue 2. Like, we have to read them in this order. There are 2 books that are one. I'm sure we'll find out why later. But 3 of these are highlit. They're highlighted. It should be highlighted. Why? Well, I think I have an idea. I think that the most holy crap books are highlighted. You see, just a couple days ago on Twitter, actually it was yesterday on Twitter, several of the Marvel Comics writers went on Twitter and just started screaming about how unbelievably good issue number 2 of House of X was. Mind you, House of X 1 hadn't even come out yet. It was slated to come out the next day. These guys had already read issue 2, and more than one person went on Twitter and just start, holy crap, House of X issue number 2. Wow, if you think 1 was good, meanwhile, we didn't even read 1 yet, That tells me a lot. And that's the first one on here that's highlighted. So there's going to be a big what the F moment in there. And that's probably why it's highlighted. So I'm imagining these other ones, while all these books are going to be good, this book was good. Holy crap, this was good. I genuinely believe it's going to be a whole lot more than that. And those 3 issues specifically are going to be something special. This was an amazing book. And yeah, we can go a whole lot more in depth into it, if we wanted to. The really cool thing about it is, as we start to learn how to decipher the language in there, we're going to be able to, and we're probably going to want to come back and look at these. At some point, we're probably going to want to come back and really sink our teeth into this whole story in a row. I get the feeling that these 12 issues, House of X, Powers of X, 1 through 6 for each, are going to be the most important books that we've read in a long time, and a long time coming. And we're definitely going to want to revisit them several times. Like, hey, if you're trapped on a deserted island, before we even finish the sentence, cannolis and House and Powers of X in trade. I'm just saying. Yes, I answered 2 questions in that one. Dude, this is an amazing, amazing book, because the more you look into it, the more things that you're going to find. These flowers, what's going on with these flowers, all grown in different areas, looking different depending on where they're actually planted, right? Like I said, every time you read this issue, you're going to find something else new in it. It's also Hickman. I'm just saying. After these 12 issues come out, we've already seen that we're going to start going into a whole bunch of other stories. There's going to be a New Mutants book coming out. There's going to be an Uncanny X-Men book coming out. There's going to be a whole bunch of other books stemming from these stories. And Hickman apparently is going to be co-writing, co-authoring one of the stories. So that means he's going to be staying on for a while. This is going to be a very exciting time for mutant lovers, for X-Men fans. And I'm genuinely looking forward to everything that comes out from this point on. Anyway, guys, signing off from right outside of freaking Pearson Airport, the YYZ, baby. And you know what? You're actually obnoxious at this point. That helps a little. So, yeah. Don't skip this book. If you're planning on getting this in trade paperback, good for you, man. You should. I probably will also. But I'm telling you right now, you're probably going to want the floppy of these issues also. At the very least, this issue, the first one out, this one that it changes a lot. You have been forewarned. Anyway, guys, I'm done. Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Class dismissed.